Commission had any real power to dictate or decide what should or shouldn't be built on this property, we wouldn't even be here today discussing the proposed changes, because they have already made it clear that they are adamantly against identity. Identity could increase the number of families residing and using Small Lake from the current 18 residences up to 48 residences. That's a 166% increase, well over doubling the amount of people using the lake or on the lake. Currently around the lake, there's 18 residences on 18.2 acres, or roughly 1 acre per household as an average. If you compare the 18 units on 18.2 acres to the 30 units on 2.5 acres, it's obvious that the density change is not congruent or harmonious to the current neighborhood. I think any prudent person can see that the proposed development is a drastic change to what currently exists and to our current way of life. For the owners on the 2.5 acres, this is an issue of money and the ability to squeeze out the maximum profit. For those of us who currently live on the lake, it's not just about the money or the loss of value to our properties. It's also about preserving our quality of life. In the city vision, it talks about protecting the residents. Here's your chance to do just that. I ask you not to buy into the stories, but to vote based on what you know is true. I urge each member to vote no. Thank you.
Bonnie Shepherd.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Council, staff, greetings. My name is Bonnie Shepherd. I'm a new resident in Allen, Florida. I live at 20202 Trail Run Drive. I have been directly involved with consulting and working with developers and city managers on ways to improve the quality of life for dozens of communities in the state of Florida over the past 30 years. I have served on boards to help preserve Florida Main Street programs, as well as on other economic development committees throughout the region. I am also a licensed real estate agent. I moved to Denellen for two reasons. First, the city's vision to preserve the history and the natural resources. Secondly, its desire to keep small town values while intentionally looking to grow smarter. You have some of the most beautiful natural resources right here. I support your policy to minimize the threats to natural and man-made resources in the vision statement. The lake we live on is a reclaimed phosphate resource that has an abundance of fish, birds, otters, alligators, and more. I was surprised to learn that most of the 16 neighbors on the lake voluntarily put their personal time and money to reclaim, preserve, and improve the ecosystem of the lake over the years to bring it to its current state. That's the sample of the handout we just hand out. I feel that this proves the sense of community and helps validate the continuity for single-family homes around the lake. It is my understanding that neither Mr. Dillon or his minority partners have put in any money to the lake and wrote return to sender when requested to give a share to help preserve the lake. The tracts of land that are being used by staff to support the higher density is not comparable to the existing homes around the lake, which has been stated. In fact, the zoning staff told adjacent properties due west that do not even come close to the characteristics of the homes that are on Blue Cove Lake. You state in your mission statement that the residents as a whole will give us, the city council, direction, and that there is equal worth in valuing each individual resident's input. We ask that you listen to the majority of the land and homeowners that live around the lake that would be impacted by the zoning change, both environmentally and financially. We urge each member of the council to vote no to be consistent with the city's comprehensive use plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lon Kinney.
Thank you. Lon Kinney, 19961 Ibis Court. The lake makes this an unusual circumstance that's not being accounted for in our staff's report. Every residence on the lake has a direct visual line of sight to this proposed development. The orientation of the proposed development will provide an unobstructed view for all 18 families who reside on this lake without any buffering. Under the Florida statute requirements for comprehensive planning, the future land use element 2A states, the future land use element must provide for the compatibility of adjacent land uses. Policy 16G of the land use plan states, all development shall be designated to ensure the compatibility with adjacent development based on concepts such as transition of building height, buffering, and building orientation. The past commission in 2008 voted to lower that density, stating that there was insufficient buffering for the residents who reside on the Blue Cove Lake. Vice Mayor Rick Hancock stated in a meeting that he did not see how this type of development would be harmonious to the surrounding neighborhood. In the Comp Plan's housing element policy 3.2, it states, through the land development regulations, establish standards for protection of residential areas from inconsistent uses which threaten the residential quality or stability of neighborhoods. Our community director, development director, Lonnie, said about Publix, the development will be compatible and harmonious with properties in the general area and will not be so at a variance with other development in the area as to cause substantial depreciation to such values. How does this differ? On our city's website, it states, the treasure of nature's coast. That's what brought me to Denali. The small 24-acre lake in the heart of this city is part of that treasure. All of its trees, its habitat. The residents surrounding the lake have tried hard to preserve it, and we need your help. The last few lots on this lake should be single resident homes that blend in like the other homes on this lake and would not be the detriment to the habitat and the surrounding area that high density will cause. The existing roadwork, I think, could handle these last few homes and would not disrupt the small surrounding communities. I think the truth is this land has been sold to a corporation that does not or will not care about the treasure of nature's coast. We care about our quality of life. I believe they care about money. They don't know us, and they are not going to be living there. The city's planning committee voted a unanimous no to the request for this request. The lake's residents, its neighbors, are asking you tonight, give it a unanimous no. Please give us your support. The existing zoning is correct. Please vote no. Thank you.
Beatrice Estrada.
I am Beatrice Izaza Tripp. I've lived on the lake side of Blue Cove at 20162 Tall Run Drive since 2004. For the last 15 years, I have seen a lot of changes to the lake. My first experience was in 2004 when tropical storms dropped so much rain on the Netherlands that the runoff from Highway 41 took a toll on the water condition of the lake. At that time, there was no filtration system in place. The lake overflowed and contaminated water also ended up in the Rainbow River. This was catastrophic for the lake. By 2005, we experienced a major fish kill to be repeated the following year. Thanks to Soren Krag, a snowbird from Europe who used to live on the lakeside, who took it upon himself to do something about it. He contacted the right government agencies, and after several years of phone calls and a lot of pressure, he accomplished a major milestone. A filtration system was put in place. Since then, the lake has not experienced any more fish kills. By the time Mrs. Jason Abraham moved into the neighborhood in 2012, the lake was overgrown with invasive plants that started choking the lake. for the last 6 years, thanks to her, who cared and saw the need to do something about it by contacting the right people, obtaining the permits required, and finding a qualified and willing person to treat the lake, and the funds contribution from the residents around the lake. The lake looks good now. Blue Cove Lake was at one time an ugly, scattered phosphate pit left by the mining industry. But nature, through the years in many parts of Florida, reclaimed and transformed these areas into beautiful wildlife and nature sanctuaries. Many of our neighboring counties have made them into protected nature parks. Laneoma needs to do the same. Blue Cove Lake in particular has become a sanctuary for all kinds of wildlife during the migration season and especially during the busy season when the Rainbow River is crowded with people and all kinds of boats. I'm asking the board that before you place your vote, think on the wildlife sanctuary we have in our backyard here in the city of Vanilla. It's not just a phosphate pit, as some call it. It is a beautiful wildlife and nature sanctuary that needs to be protected, and we, the citizens of Blue Cove, need your help to support and do so. All of the homes boarding the lake at this time are in harmony with nature. A 30-unit development will be out of place and detrimental to the ecosystem of the lake and surrounding properties. Just imagine that the 2.5 acres in question would look after moving all of the trees to give room to 30 units and the impact it would make to all of the wildlife that takes refuge from these trees. In the name of nature conservation, please vote no to the property in question to high density. It should be voted in harmony with nature existing properties. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Marcia Phelps.
My name is Marcia Phelps, 11843 Blue Heron Court, Dunellen, Florida. I have to say that I find Mr. Dillon's project and petition very interesting, as Mr. Dillon's contractor's license has been delinquent since August of 2018. This is the 10th month of scheduled city meetings about the ordinance. Regardless, many residents and citizens have attended all these meetings, sometimes informed that the meeting itself was postponed by the applicant. The residents have presented credible evidence, competent material, and substantial relevant facts, and even identified oversights to the application that have since been corrected. They presented material facts backed by the Florida statutes, by the City of Dunellen ordinances, resolutions, the comprehensive plan, including the future land use element, the future land use map, goals, objectives, policies, as well as information, recorded documents from Marion County and other sources. These are not circumstantial evidence, but they are facts. These are facts. The land use plan, if passed, asks Blue Cove and Blue Cove Lake community to bear a disproportionate share of the burden, all proposed for speculative monetary gain to parcel owners. To accomplish a legitimate public purpose, we ask that fairness be borne by the parcel owners. You can show that, great. Such density change presents a true burden to many of the residents and the quality of life, as well as monetary loss of value on our homestead, which could also lead to a loss of the tax base I want to talk about. The paper I gave you. Mr. Dillon's proposed tax base was 18 units of $4 million. If you take away the homestead exemptions, which everyone has, that comes to about, as a median, $675,000. That brings the tax base down to approximately $3,325,000. The 6.5 millage rate to the city would be $21,612.50. Now, Mr. Dillon can still conduct business at low density. At 6 single-family waterfront homes, we're proposing a $3 million tax base, minus the homestead exemptions, which would be $225,000 on a median, that's half 25 and half 50. That equals $2,775,000 for an approximate tax base. It equals the 6.5 millage rate to Dunellen would be $18,037.50. The monetary difference between the high density and the low density to the city of Dunellen is only $3,575. Are you going to give up the residents for $3,575. Cost more than that to give the police chief his movie camera. I urge each member of the council to vote
Thank
no.
you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Sandra Peterson.
Sandra Peterson, Pilling, 20042 Quail Drive, Denellen, Florida. I would like to make a real personal first in that I've never felt such a veiled threat as I just heard from Mr. Dillon today. Threat to either do something that's going to hurt us because it's trash or something that's going to help you because it's going to bring the city money. All I, and I believe my neighbors are asking for is conformity. Now, I've prepared statement. This is from the resolution 2013-17, resolution 2017-14, City of Denellen, Public Code of Ethical Conduct, adopted by the City, Denellen City Council. Act in the public interest. Recognizing that stewardship of the public interest must be their primary concern, City Council and Board Commission members will work for the common good of the people of Denellen and not for any private or personal interest. And they will assure fair and equal treatment of all persons, claims, transactions coming before the City Council and Board's commissions. Members shall keep the common good as their highest purpose and focus on achieving constructive solutions for the public benefit. The citizens and businesses of Denellen are entitled to have fair, ethical, and accountable local government process, which has earned the public's full confidence of integrity. Good ethics in government is about open and honest discussion between all stakeholders. The Florida statutes say, government is to protect human, environmental, social, and economic resources, and to maintain all orderly growth and development, the character and the stability of present and future development of the state. I urge each member of the council to vote no. No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Cowan. You should be made aware of that information.
Actually, that would help. Thank you, Lonnie. Could you do that?
Yes. The lot of record exemption was strictly to allow any lot that was too small to be developed on its own to be allowed to have a house built on it. We have many small lots in town, 50 feet wide, 100 feet deep, and if you calculated the square footage of that lot, it wouldn't even meet the minimum requirement to be able to build even at the lowest level of zoning. So the comp plan was done in order to make sure that a property owner who had a small lot like that was below the minimum density requirement would still have the right to put a house on that property. And that's strictly what that was for at that time in 2016.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all I have to say at this time.
Thank you so much.
Larry Winkler.
Feel like I'm already up here. Larry Winkler, 1994 East Burkett Road. I hope you all have read the letter that I sent in earlier today. And I hope you understand it about property values, what I went through. I've lived here over 40 years now, and I've always wondered why Denellen didn't grow. And I wasn't alone. Valerie's dad, who I worked with many times, couldn't figure it out either. And Valerie's dad had put the original comp plan together, and he was always concerned about why we didn't have residential growth here in the city. Well, I tell you what, when I was asked to get sufficient time for Chuck's development out there. I was glad to do it. I put aside 6 hours of my time to do this. And I set a goal of 40 signatures. It took me 3 days at 6 hours a day, 18 hours to get these. I didn't reach my goal of 40, I got about 38, something like that. But this is time spent talking to people, and I targeted people, black, white, purple, that have been here over 40 years. And a lot of them have 5 generations here in the city. And they all still feel the same way. Out of all of this time that I spent trying to get signatures, I had 2 people turn me down, 2 school people. They didn't want to get involved. That was and that was their priority. But all the ones that I talked to want the city to expand and grow. They're sick of lawsuits. And these are people that've been here years, not somebody that come here last week, last year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. People that put their life here, and they want to see it grow, and so does Larry Winkler. I appreciate this county coming up here too and describing that lake as a pit, because it's always been a pit for the last 100 years. I live on Blue Cove Lake. I don't live on pit. I live on Blue Cove Lake, right off the Burkett Drive. That is Blue Cove Lake, always has been and always will be. I thank you very much, and I hope you take my letter into consideration. It talks about property values, that on the water here in Dunellen, property values have never went low. They've always raised. That's experience. I've also been in real estate. My wife was a broker for over 40 years, and we went through it. We've owned houses on the river, and we sold and made a big profit. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
Colleen Murphy?
She's not here, I don't think.
Jeff Gasky?
Hello, Jeff Cassidy, 2130 Slack Drive. In disclosure, I am a member of the board of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm also sitting up here for police and fire pension program for Dunellen, and I own a business in Dunellen, and I own property in the house in Dunellen that I live in. Oh, I graduated DHS in 1980. Excuse me. Thanks. 1988, the microphone.
I was gonna say, I thought you were a little bit older than that. There you go.
1988, I'm sorry. So, I've been around here for a while, but I went away, went around the world, saw the rest of the world, and came back here. What Willard has said about the development and what he said about the tax base and businesses are hit pretty hard. I bought my property here in town just a few years ago. I wanted to be in town, in the city limits. Taxes are high. If you're coming here into town without the history, it's pretty high. I'm coming from a place in the country where I thought it was bad. It's pretty bad here. Having a tax base increased to help out and expand sounds like a great idea. I don't know the history of people who live in Blue Cove as much as an adult would. I remember as a teenager, the parties, the lake, I did all that. Sorry. So I remember what it was like back then. I don't know what it's like now because I can't see it. I can't go there. It's kind of protected. You have property as an adult. You don't really go over its boundaries. But I think the idea of having a project like Dylan is projecting that is controlled and it's used in a way to increase the tax base and give residents over 55 who have no place here in town a place to live is a good idea. I think that he has the right to build something on there, but he's getting a proposal that sounds like it makes sense if we don't give him what he is proposing, it sounds like things could be a lot worse for the residents in the area. So I want people to think about that part. I don't know anything about the history of the zoning and the changes, but I think something can be done there. I don't think the residents, if they're 55 and up, will make a big impact on the area. And I think if we hold him to his accountabilities with some kind of contractual agreement that is beneficial and lays out exactly what can be built there, and we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bill Seminar?
Bill Samerhead, 20,002 Railroad Drive, in Allen, Florida, 3 I lived on the lake for 20 years. There were just a few, like a Quail Run Drive. When I moved in, there were just 4 houses on the lake. Nothing on Quail Run Drive, except at the corner. I love this property. I live in the city. So much has been said by the people before me that is so true, so no use me repeating what they said. Everything they said I agree with the exception of one person. Blue Cove is a jewel to Denali. If you destroy one family residence of Blue Cove 2, you are destroying something that you'll be proud of 50 years from now, that you can see a development that is residential around the lake, decent, quiet, nice people, and you know, what more can I say? You're going to lose something. You're going to lose a jewel within the city by developing commercial at the end of our lake. Please, protect it. We have protected it. We worked hard. We fought with the water ISS. We fought. We're fighting with the hydro. We had no help. I asked for help for everybody around the lake. I started the first meeting we had to do something about the problem we had at the time. And there's one person in this room that had never participated or paid 1 penny for interest to the property of the surrounding the lake. Now, it has a nice home, it's built up. Boy, I was in the real estate business. I'm an old broker. I retired. I was a developer, land developer. I still have development. And I have 3 lots next to me that I have kept over years. And if he can build whatever he wants over there, maybe I would like to put maybe a hotel on one of those sites, or take a fall field and put it together. So please, take this into consideration. You have something here. It's a one-time deal. Protect us, please. Thank you.
Cecilia Chesa?
She left. Thank you for everyone's participation, and especially thank you for observing and being respectful of each other.
It is now 7:39 p.m. I close the public hearing held to discuss ordinance number ORD 2018-14 and reopen the April 8th City Council meeting. Move on to agenda item 20, final reading ordinance number ORD 2018-14, comprehensive plan amendment, Charles J. Dillon. Is there a motion to read by title?
I move ordinance 0-2-0-1-8-14 be read by title only.
My phone just died.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, it's unanimous by the council.
Ordinance number ORD 2018-14, an ordinance of the city of Pinellas, Florida, providing for a future land use map amendment to the comprehensive plan to include within the future land use map and change the designation of property for that portion of tax parcel identification 3455-002-000, comprising 2.5 acres more or less, located east of Rainbow Gardens Apartments and west of Blue Cove Lake. Access via Lake Shore Drive, and current designation of residential low-density land use to residential high-density land use to create consistency with zoning of R3 multiple dwelling, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion on the floor
Motion to approve.
to approve? Is there a motion to approve?
I vote no.
No.
I'm learning, y'all, and I'm learning. I'm sorry.
I should have been clear.
Okay,
It's a
I'm sorry.
motion to, is there a motion to approve?
Okay, I move ordinance 0-RD 218-14 be approved.
All in favor of
Discussion.
now there's a discussion, yes, I'm sorry. Okay, council, any discussion? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I vote no. I vote no. Just looking, I understand about increasing the tax base. I'm new up here. I'm learning a lot, okay? But low density, Blue Cove homes, most of them seem to be low density, and in the surrounding area, homes are low density, and I vote no. I'm pretty sure that some of the people that live out there, they purchased homes because it was single-family homes. And they have probably been out there for a long time. Some probably recently moved there because it's single-family homes. So I just vote no.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I've known Mr. Dillon and his family for more than 30 years. I also was a registered real estate broker and practiced in town for more than 30 years. One thing that I really find very disturbing is the fact that it's like intimidation. So if we don't do this, then you're going to do something else. And, you know, I can't believe that, Chuck, that you would do that. This is our town. We cannot be held if everybody thinks that way, and they come here and they say, well, if you don't do what we want done, we're gonna do something else. That's not the way to do business, and I'm surprised. We have been friends a long time. You built the house I live in, and I look at these people, these are people that have given a lot. I look around, I know people that have been on boards and done a lot of stuff here. They're not here to be against you. I'm not against development, but what turned me off tonight is the fact that if we don't do this, you are going to do something else. I can't believe that. So for that reason, I'm voting no.
Any other comments?
I'll chime in a little bit with what Councilwoman Fernandez said, that I walked into this and I've really tried my best to really be neutral and to give this a real fair airing. And just say, okay, let's start from ground zero and let's listen to what everybody says. But I do have to join in with some of the comments that when the applicant for this zoning is talking about, I'm going to do something to this property regardless, whether it's rational or irrational, I'm going to do something. For someone who's experienced in government business, that's a very surprising statement. And I take exception to that myself, but that is not what I will base my decision on. What you have to do is just boil this down to just the basics. Sometimes these things get tentacles on them, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it becomes a snowball, but really you get it back to its original size, that's what you're talking about. What this is just an applicant. Let's remove the name, let's remove the personality. There's someone that owns 2.5 acre piece of property that is asking for a density change. What the council is being asked is not to negotiate at this point. It's just simply, we are asking for a density change. And along with that density change, allows the individual who owns the property to put up to 30 units on the property. Anything that the individual promises or says they will do or plans to do, they are not bound to that, because we are just simply making a decision on this piece of property that whoever owns it, whether it's immediately, 5 years from now, 2 years from now, it sticks that way, and you can do with it up to 30 units. So that's what I'm looking at right here. It's not, is it going to be 16 units? Is it going to be 18? I appreciate knowing that. But even talking with City Council, we have been advised that these proposals are just proposals. And as long as the owner of the property abides by the codes and those sort of things, can do what they want. Simply, even if we agree to increase the density, a decision could be made to do nothing, and that property remains connected that way. Where then you could even sell the property, now rezoned, to somebody else who could look at the promise of what we want to do and say, well, that was the promise of the previous owner, I don't have to do that. So that's the way I'm looking at this. I'm trying my best to just look at it. What is it that we are being asked to do? And we are just simply being asked to increase that density where whoever owns that property can put up 30 units there. They can go up 3 stories if they would like. They can go up to 40 feet. There's all kinds of things. And once the council has decided on this, for the most part, it now moves to staff, and then staff has to make sure that everything's done as it's supposed to be done. So this is real important at this stage that council gets this right. My personal opinion on this, the idea that there could be currently 6 houses put on that piece of property is very consistent and in line with what is there. The idea that you could have these 30 units up to 3 stories tall is much different than what's currently there. What I have found that is confusing is we have a staff who we have a lot of respect for. Council has to lean on staff. This is where we get our information. As I have said in previous meetings, we cannot communicate to each other, with each other in between meetings. We're reliant on staff to give us information. We're reliant on meeting new people. There's many in this audience know they meet with me on a regular basis. I'm using this along with staff information so I can get the information I need. So we have a situation where staff has recommended to go forward with this application, and we have our planning commission, who we have to deal with respectively. I know these people on the planning. planning commission. They're highly qualified people. We put a lot of time into this, and they have recommended unanimously no. So that puts me in a real conflict. But my feelings on this is that to put 6 units, 6 houses there is in line with what's there. To rezone or to increase the density on this property that could allow the owner to put up to 30 units on there is not in line with what is currently on the lake. And based on what we're doing, which is actually identifying the land, has nothing to do with the owner. It's the land what we're doing it to, and whoever owns the land can do with it according to what we vote. That is what I'm focused on. And that's, based on that is how I would vote tonight.
It's kind of funny seeing the 55 plus, since I turned 55 this January, I guess you could be a resident there. It's so shocking still. I'm going to talk in 2 parts. I've got a lot of hats that I wear, and I'm going to put on my realtor hat, broker hat. City of Denellen, we do desperately need those 55 plus communities. My mother right now, perfect example, selling her home on the river, and she doesn't know where she's going. Oh God, she might come to my house. But anyway, we do need 55 and older communities for us. I think something that would be a gated community is fabulous. And my dad, when he was on council, he had something very similar happen when he was sitting up here. And it was right across the street from Bottle Springs. Oh my gosh. They were putting in a trailer park community, a 55 plus community. And it was going to be gated, which it is whenever they put the arm down. Everybody in Bottle Springs just knew, was dead sure, including myself, that the property values were going down. How could we even think that? I remember being so mad at Dad for voting yes on it. Guess what? My property values did not go down. Those neighbors across the street from me are probably some of the finest people I have ever met. They walk their dogs in my neighborhood. They are kind. They are seasonal, some of them live there year-round. They're all good people. We need a 55 and older community where a Pat could live, my mom. Saying that, I do believe that Mr. Dillon will do what he says as far as him saying 16 homes. For me personally, I wish we had come in at medium density on this property. And because I do understand the concerns as a city councilwoman that he might put 30 up there, or he might sell it tomorrow and put something else up there that he does not have to do because he's not obligated to do that. I'm very conflicted on this. I appreciate all of your opinions. Your property values will be fine even if he does build those 16 units. I don't think we could ever go to 40 feet high because I don't believe, if I'm not mistaken, we don't have a fire truck that could allow that height to be built anyway, correct? So that's something that would be something that we would be able to control as a city anyway. So there are a lot of issues that have been, a lot of fears that have been projected here tonight that a little bit of homework would have taken those fears away. So a little more homework, I guess I should say. I wrote notes on everybody who came up to speak. And again, I am very conflicted conflicted on my vote, even as I sit here now. And that has nothing to do if I think Mr. Dillon would build a poor building or not do what he says. It has nothing to do with personality whatsoever. My only issue is I think it's a better for medium density. I don't think it should have ever been changed to begin with when he purchased the property. I don't think it should have ever been changed, but that's not what I can do about anything about. But I just think some of your fears are not, would not be realized, and I just want to make that statement. Thank you.
You're fine. You're always.
Regarding the 55 and older community, that's not a problem with me. Excuse me. You know, I don't pass judgment on here. I am 64. I will be 64 years old in a couple of weeks, you know? And, but I don't pass judgment on it. I don't think a 55 and older community would be bad anywhere, you know? But I just feel like there are people in that community, they've been there for a long time, they probably purchased homes because it's single-family residences out there, and just recently moved. I have pondered over this, and I've pondered over this, I've prayed about this. The people in the community, they live here, some of them probably work here, they may spend money here, probably don't have the money that Mr. Dillon probably has, and I like Mr. Dillon too, you know? But they work and they purchase here too, and there's most of the residents are single family, and I just think it should remain low density, so.
And I, as we close this out, the last thought is basically this. If we chose to vote yes, then that is high density, no matter who owns the property. And I think the residents have been very clear, even with their tax base, they've been very clear with the facts about what would or would not or could not happen. I've heard both sides of the story. Actually, I had one gentleman get me for over an hour and explain to me, should I vote against this, then it would prove that I'm anti-business. And I find it a sad note that we cannot agree to disagree. That's what concerns me. So my vote would be, like Councilman White and the rest of the council is saying, it would be predicated on the facts. And this has been for a little bit uneasy for me as well, in a lot of ways. So this is not an easy struggle that I've had. As a matter of fact, I've talked to our lawyer several times, trying to find a way out of voting, to be honest. So, with that said, I guess we will.
Can I ask the one question?
Yes.
Right, well, following up on the Vice Mayor's comments, and this isn't what we're voting on, it's just some information. On the property in question, if the applicant had been applying for medium density, what would be the maximum units that could be built on that piece of property? Maximum.
At medium density, that would be 5 dwelling units per acre. So 2.5 acres would be 12. It's 12.75, so yeah, it would be 12.
So according to Mr. Dillon's site plans, with the medium density, then he would have 6 building with townhouses as part. So he'd have 6 buildings, each building having 2 units.
2 units to make 12. Yes.
And right now it's zoned for 6 residential homes, correct?
It's zoned for 2.5 maximum dwelling units per acre.
Yeah. He could put 6 homes there.
So he could put 6.
So medium would allow him to put, with his design, 6 2 units.
2 units, which would be a total of 12.
Okay, I understand, thank you.
Thank you. I think we're ready for a vote. Yes or no? Anybody, any more comments? All in favor of approving? All against approving the zoning? Aye. It's unanimous. So high density has been turned down.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Indulge me, please.
Yes, please.
I won't talk about the complexity of negotiating an international nuclear arms agreement. We can agree to this. I'm not talking about an issue, I'm talking about contractually. It's the lawyer's job to write it properly. I'm not going to argue that issue. I'm up here as a human being, believe it or not. I got my attorney hat off. I learned a long time ago, but I've had a long time to learn. And that is, I go through at least 6 stages before I say something. You don't want to hear the first thought. I used to have red hair, so you probably would understand that. I'm not Mr. Dillon. I don't know him nearly as well as most people do. I spent some time with him. His intent was never to intimidate. That would be foolish to attempt to intimidate anyone. Frankly, we discussed it. His purpose, his sole purpose was that this is the only, maybe he didn't use it word, or maybe he didn't use it enough. I said, he's got a choice to pay taxes in perpetuity or build something like 5 units. The tax base is going to argue for, that's 5 $500,000 houses. That's not going to happen. There's only one untold, in Blue Cove, untold, and there's 2. And that's over 30 years. I sincerely appreciate it.
Could we have everybody go outside, please, to talk? Thank you. We're trying to hear. Thank you so much.
Good to see you. Sir.
We're still in session. Again, I sincerely appreciate your patience, your indulgence, your consideration, and regardless, this isn't over, not as a threat. We want to do what's right if that's possible, and that is an economic thing without impacting negatively on Blue Cove or any other place. Because we use this word community, we don't say Box Springs, we don't say the Historic District, we don't say East Pennsylvania, we don't say Publix, we say the Dunellen community. And that's the way we ought to think about it. And that's what I ask you to think about in the future when you see me walking down the street or Chuck down the street. And I'll feel the same way when I see any of you walking down the street. That's all I ask.
All right,
Thanks
thank you.
again. We're going to get out, not because we're upset, but because we've had enough of this little night. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Art. The council liaison reports. I'm sorry.
I thought you were going to say something to me.
Yes, sir.
No, I was just saying thank you. The council, is there any report from the council?
Just for the TPO board, we did do some interviews on, last Tuesday? For last Tuesday for, a new director. We had 2 gentlemen come before us, one is the interim director, and we offered the position to the gentleman from negotiation for that, so we're still looking for a seat. We are looking to also take Century and and put it over to the control of the city of Ocala, but yet have the TPO be able to still give advice and directions to where we think the transit system should go. As we know, one day will eventually come out to 200 systems in those areas. Anyway, so we're looking forward to a new beginning at our TPO.
If everyone could, if you don't mind, could you go outside to speak so we can hear our reports, please? Thank you so much. Any other council? I have a note that I'd like to, if anybody else has an update, go ahead and give your update.
I don't really have anything there. I would just like to thank Troy for what he's trying to help do. I had mentioned a concern about the Chetmont area to him, and he's been keeping me informed.
Oh, excellent. Very quickly, Commissioner Moore, I, and a few other dignitaries are going to make a journey to what's called Camp Izzard, which is about 4 miles from here, 5 miles from here. We're looking at, actually, the commission over there has already agreed with Gainesville, and there's going to be a trail that will do all the fords. Camp Izzard happens to be right in the middle of the Dade Massacre, if any of you read that part of history. And there was a battle there for a couple of days, so it is significant. Close to it is what's called Cedar Grove Cemetery, a forgotten place. So we're hoping, with the help of DAR and some other folks, to get some work done out there. What we're hoping to do, as far as Denellen being involved, is to highlight, make it part of the forts, just like the bike trail, make it part of our ecosystem, our tourism. Because when people come here with their families, some people like to go check history out, some like to ride bikes, hike. And with that said, there's some other things with the tourist board that we've been involved with. They, as a matter of fact, some of our folks are gone, but Joanne Black and I met with the head of the tourist board, and we're looking to bring some more eco-friendly tourism to Denellen. So we're doing our best to bring the kind of folks into the town that will stay here and spend money, which would benefit our businesses and our citizens. It would help our tax base. So with that said, city attorney's report?
No, sir, I have nothing to report this evening.
Okay. Administrator's report?
Yes, I just have a few quick things I wanted to point out. The city council has had the administrator's report for since last week on Thursday, and it's been attached to the agenda. So I will be responsive if you have any questions, and I will belabor the report. But I just quickly wanted to point out a couple of things. I asked Troy Slattery to please take a minute and stand. He is your new public services manager. He's no longer an interim. As we've heard many of you over the last several weeks, thank him. He has jumped in with both feet.
Sure
He has excelled in the tasks that I have given him. He has gone above and beyond what I consider even normal public service to help anyone that has contacted him with any issue or concern. And Troy, that is so appreciative in a time that public services is a challenge, and that with staffing and the capital projects we have before us, he has his plate full, and he's never questioned it for one. Not at one point has he questioned it at all. I was a little worried through the interim period as we continue to pique his interest, and he's more dedicated than he was the first day. And so thank you. Moving on from that, again, something Troy was able to help me complete was the landscaping around the new city welcome signs. Because we truly appreciate our Denellen Chamber and Business Association is hosting ribbon cutting for the new welcome signs on April 23rd at 11 o'clock a.m. I emailed out to Tuesday towards the end of the month. I did email council about that and hope y'all can join us. We would like to have as many of the council participate and be in a group photo with the Chamber Board of Directors to just recognize the efforts that I think was quite a lengthy, long time project that many have participated in to make that project come to fruition. So again, thank you, Julie, for your help there. And lastly, I just wanted to, because I think it's certainly worth noting, a big thank you to this community and to the council and to our staff. It was what I would consider a huge success last Thursday for our mapping exercise.
Yes.
I'm just so tickled with the turnout, the state agencies that participated, the interactive reports after the visiting of these assets. It was an incredible experience to be a part of. And again, from our staff, just we can't thank everybody enough for their participation. It would not have been possible without our community coming out and participating in all of those conversations and ultimately that mapping exercise. So I think speaking on behalf of staff, we're just tickled and excited to continue the motivation of moving forward to a successful economic development plan at the end of this, and identifying projects and funding projects and ultimately getting to a goal that so many have spoke of not being able to achieve before. So again, Lonnie, thank you for your leadership in that direction. And so for the rest of it, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer it now. One-on-one, I don't want to belabor the evening any more than necessary.
Any questions?
Yeah, Mayor, if I could just touch up on a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Chief, you might have something to do with this. I sent to staff 6 questions that I had, and they were answered satisfactory. I just have just a little bit more I'd like to ask. The first question, it was addressed about our animal control policy. And I know we are working on a program, your answer says that. What my question is, though, in the meantime, as we're working on our program, just want to get clarification, and this is actually was the mayor concluded that conversation, just to make sure we have an understanding with the county that we're going to pay for it, so there's no confusion if we have after-hour problem and there's no one in the city to contact, and the county is saying to us, well, we don't know if we can do it because who's going to pay for it? So mayor kind of gave a directive to make sure that's been taken care of.
No, that's not currently the issue. We do have an agreement with the county now, and they have billed us in the past and will continue to do that under the existing contract. What brought this to the surface was a resolution that would need to be added to sort of address some additional things that Troy was facing when he took over. When he delved into that, he found at the time that we entered that contract, there was a request for a resolution should the city want certain things, and for some reason that wasn't actually addressed at that time. So Troy was actually trying to address a resolution to identify some additional kinds and elements of services, and that really brought it to the surface. So what we're doing right now with the staffing problems and some other things is just really reevaluating the cost.
I understand it,
Yes.
right? That's not, I don't need
Yes.
that in depth. I'm just saying when someone makes a phone call, the county will pick it up and there's no question that they'll be paid for it. You know, so what I'm saying, whoever needs to know it in the county needs to know that they can do it.
Cost isn't an issue.
So that's all I'm saying, just to make sure.
Yes,
But I
I'm
went
sure
through
right
on a
before
personal
we
level.
okay in the interim. Did you want to add something?
Well, where I went on a personal level, I had to actually get past a couple of layers of the county and insist that they find a supervisor at home for him to finally say, go to Dunell and take care of the problem, he'll be paid. So that's all I'm saying, just to make sure, it's,
Yes, yeah, funding is not the problem.
And what I've done recently, while we're working through this process, is if somebody calls into the county has to call me direct, rather than putting that person through the loops, and they can then find me. You see what I'm saying? So if somebody in the city calls on behalf of a stray animal or something they have an issue with, then the county will call me direct.
Because the terms of the agreement are, the county will not respond to just any resident. They have to have the city's permission to come in. The resolution was going to address some of that process. So it really was never about cost of an initiative.
so if the chief or a policeman got involved, that would be represented in the city.
As long as there was an authorized representative that would invite the county in to deal with the problem.
Mayor, this one has a little bit to you, going back to our old records. You came up, I think it was one of your first nights as mayor, and you came up with a solution to that permanent barrier that's in Blue Cove, that is the second entry point or exit point. And you came up with, I thought, right then you became my man when you came up with the solution. Keep the barrier there, but put a hinge on it in some way where it can be opened when our first responders need to either get in and out of there. And that's been 6 months ago. I'm just wondering if that has been addressed since, that was kind of the solution we came up with.
Yes, ultimately, I attached the minutes, and that certainly was his recommendation. As you can tell in the minutes, Vice Mayor Hancock at that point made a contrary motion, and ultimately the council decided to ask staff to make a recommendation for an ultimate resolution. As you know, we had some changeover right after that, and our manager for public works, our supervisor. In addition, we had some presentations that would affect Shore Tower. And I was concerned that ultimately whatever the city decided to do with Shore Tower was going to have a direct effect on that barricade. So considering a number of the issues that we had, we left the barricade intact, so there wasn't a great concern by the public at that point as far as losing that ability. I put it on the back burner until I was trying to see what we were going to do with Shore Tower, and then of course get some solid management in place to help be a part of that recommendation. So we will revisit that. Ultimately, as you know, the legal opinion recommended that the city had two options. They could do a temporary barricade, or they could do a permanent closure, and there were recommendations for how to get to each. Ultimately, I think what we'll do is bring back the resolution, which was part of Andrew's recommendation, for a temporary closure, which doesn't necessarily have to be tied to a date. Temporary is not necessarily defined for any period of time, but I think if it makes council comfortable that there is a legislative action in place for that barricade to be there until such different decision is made. But I do think that council needs to finish vetting what its plans are going to be for Shore Tower. So depending on drainage and the way that parking is, to make sure if there is going to be a barricade for emergency access, that it really can be accessed. And I don't know until we ultimately decide on a development plan for that road.
Okay, very good. So, the question is in the meantime, and I think with Chief here and our other first responders, knowing that in the case of an emergency where the main entrance is untenable, for whatever reason, have a head-on collision right there, the intersection's blocked, you can't get back into Blue Cove, while someone's having a heart attack in Blue Cove, and now you can't get back in there. So just knowing there is another way to get back in there, I think that was kind of the mindset of why we have a way, particularly the police and our first responders, that can get back in.
Understand, and I guess what I was sort of thinking, it has been that way for 30 plus years, so I didn't see it as immediate, perhaps since it hasn't posed anybody a problem for that long being able to gain access one way or the other. Matter of fact, historically, the police have recommended the barricade be there. So.
Okay, thank you. Very good. And then under the sixth question, just one other one. I've talked with Andrew a little bit about what we have in the books, how we deal with abandoned homes. And surprisingly, Mayor, the Senate and the House are right now coming up with some stuff dealing with that. So it's not just us, it's all over the place. And what's happening is the municipalities are finding that our enforcement mechanisms and our teeth and our way of dealing with it are somewhat, diluted. So it is now brought to the attention of Tallahassee. Whether they do anything with it or not, I don't know. But in talking with Andrew, he says he has given a cursory look at what we have, and he does see a little rough edges here and there that he would recommend that maybe we could streamline it a little bit, and we can address that if you want.
I'd be happy to, if it's council's pleasure. Looking at your process, I can sum it up very, very shortly. Once a building is brought to the initial attention of a code inspector or your code enforcement, they then provide notice, a 60-day notice. If it's not taken care of within 45 days, they provide a second notice. And what's interesting then is after those notice periods, it then comes, instead of going directly to the special magistrate, it comes back to council for a preliminary review, which is very odd. Well, I shouldn't say very odd, but it's odd to me because council sits, usually there's a separation of powers. Of course, the lines are blurred more with municipal government because you do serve in some judicial capacities. But to bring that back before going to a special magistrate is a little strange, and I think creates some issues given that ultimately, at least in my mind, because you would be the board that somebody's going to first appeal that special magistrate's decision to. So it makes sense to take council out of the enforcement process and leave them more in the appellate process, which does not leave anybody from council pointing something out, saying, hey, I see a problem here. Maybe staff should look into taking care of this place. That still gives staff the ability to determine what the appropriate course of action is, and then refer to the magistrate. And so I think that is one, definitely one improvement that could be made. And then there's a few other. There's actually just some odd things in here that I find with similar ordinances that I'm not used to seeing, such as staff making a determination whether the city would benefit through acquisition of the property. The goal of code enforcement is to bring about compliance, not to identify properties for the city to take. So to place that in the ordinance is a little strange. There's just a few things in here that I think we probably have a good skeletal framework to pursue enforcement on some properties. But there's a few extra steps in here that I just think don't belong, and you could certainly go down the street and enforce it as it is, and there may be some risk there. I can't say without doing further legal analysis. We could take a look at the ordinance for you and recommend some improvements. Of course, look at other jurisdictions too that have good ordinances in place and perhaps recommend replacement. But we can look as much at it as you would like, or as little as you would like, or we can not look at it all. It's up to you entirely.
Can I defer to staff? Because that's going to take time and...
On this issue, I agree with Andrew's staff. Should work with Andrew if he sees some areas, no matter how proactive, how minimal, or how aggressive we are, a procedure should be well advised by your city attorney and be a proper procedure. So I think these changes should be made regardless of how much time and effort we spend in pursuing these problems. So we'll certainly work with Andrew and bring back you an amending ordinance as we're able to get through that and complete it.
So Mayor, does this need any motion, or it's just a directive?
No, it's a consensus. I think with anything else, we understand those are some areas, one many in our code book that really should be addressed.
So would you think 30 days henceforth, at our next get-together, she might have some recommendation?
30 days would be enough to give you a report. I think as far as recommendations and having a proposed ordinance, I don't know that would be enough time for that. But at least 30 days to get the ball rolling and perhaps provide some feedback.
Yeah, there are several issues on his plate right now that we're either in the middle of or do have some priority, and I don't want to overextend him or that, but I promise you we will work that in just as quickly as I will stay on top of that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other, comments or issues? If not, yes. I make the motion, we
Second.
adjourn. All in favor?